When an operational technology (OT) incident happens, beginners often imagine the response team as the people who already work at the facility, acting alone with whatever tools and knowledge happen to be on hand. In reality, many organizations discover during their first serious incident that they do not have enough specialized expertise, enough staff hours, or enough surge capacity to handle everything quickly and safely. OT environments are complex, vendor-specific, and high consequence, and incidents create a messy mix of investigation, containment, operational decision-making, and recovery validation that can overwhelm internal teams. Planning mutual aid and retainers is the disciplined way to avoid being isolated during that moment. Mutual aid is the arrangement where peer organizations support each other with knowledge, resources, and sometimes hands-on assistance when emergencies occur. Retainers are pre-arranged agreements with external experts who can respond quickly when you need them, rather than searching for help while the incident is unfolding. This planning is not a sign of weakness. It is a recognition that resilience includes the ability to call and help without delay. In OT, where time pressure and safety constraints are real, having trusted support channels already established can be the difference between a controlled response and a prolonged outage driven by uncertainty. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Information Sharing and Analysis Centers, ISACs, are one of the most common mutual aid structures, and their value is easiest to understand when you view them as trusted communities for sharing threat information, lessons, and practical guidance within a sector. Different industries face different threat pressures, different regulatory expectations, and different operational constraints, and a sector-focused sharing community helps members learn from each other's experiences without reinventing the same painful lessons. For beginners, the key idea is that an ISAC is not just a newsletter. It can provide timely information about threats targeting a specific sector, guidance on defensive measures, and a mechanism for members to ask questions and share observations in a structured way. During incidents, this can matter because you may discover that what you are experiencing is not unique. Another organization may have seen the same tactic, the same vendor-related issue, or the same failure mode, and that insight can reduce your investigation time dramatically. ISAC participation also supports preparedness because it helps you benchmark your controls against peers, identify gaps, and anticipate emerging risks. In OT, where many systems have long life cycles and slow change, early warning and peer learning can help you prioritize improvements before you are forced into crisis-driven upgrades. Peer support is broader than formal ISAC participation, and it includes the relationships you build with other organizations, individuals, and teams who can provide practical help during difficult moments. Peer support might be a network of security leaders who share candid lessons, a group of control engineers across companies who understand the same vendor ecosystem, or an informal set of regional partners who can provide on-site help when travel is difficult. Beginners should understand that peer support is most valuable when it is built before you need it, because trust takes time. During an incident, you do not want to be introducing yourself for the first time to someone you are asking to share sensitive advice. Peer support can provide value in many forms: sanity checks on containment decisions, ideas for integrity verification, recommendations for vendor engagement, and even emotional support because incidents are stressful and people make better decisions when they are not isolated. In OT, peer support can also help with operational continuity by sharing playbooks for degraded operation, lessons about manual modes, and guidance on safe sequencing during recovery. This is not about copying another organization's environment. It is about learning from their decision patterns and their mistakes. Beginners often think incident response is purely technical, but the human dimension is huge, and peer support reduces the loneliness that leads to rushed decisions. Retainers are the other major piece of readiness, and the simplest way to explain a retainer is that it is a pre-negotiated promise of help. Instead of scrambling to find experts during a crisis, you already know who to call, what services they will provide, how quickly they will respond, and what the relationship terms are. In OT, retainers can be especially important because specialized expertise is often scarce. You may need forensic help that understands industrial systems, incident response experts who can work safely in environments with uptime constraints, or engineers who can interpret vendor-specific logs and configurations. A retainer also reduces procurement delay, which can be a silent killer during incidents. If every hour requires approvals, contracts, and negotiations, the incident can expand while paperwork proceeds. Beginners should understand that a retainer is not only about speed, it is also about alignment. A good retainer relationship includes an understanding of your environment, your safety priorities, and your operational constraints, so the external team does not arrive and propose actions that are unsafe or impractical. In OT, external responders need to respect that they are entering a process environment, not just a server room. A retainer allows you to establish those expectations ahead of time. Incident Response Retainer, IRR Readiness, which some people shorten as IRR Readiness, is the broader state of being able to use retainers effectively when an incident occurs. It is not enough to have a contract on paper if you cannot operationalize it under pressure. Readiness includes knowing who can authorize calling the retainer, how to contact the provider at any hour, what information to provide during initial triage, and how to integrate external responders into your incident command structure. Beginners sometimes assume the external team will simply handle it, but in OT, external teams must work alongside internal operations and engineering staff because safety and process knowledge are essential. IRR readiness, therefore, includes defining roles and access boundaries for external responders. For example, what systems can they access remotely, if any, and through what controlled pathways? How will sessions be logged and supervised? What is the process for physical site access if they need to be on site? Who provides escorts and ensures safety compliance? Readiness also includes data preparedness, meaning logs, inventories, diagrams, and baseline information are organized so responders can begin analysis quickly. If you spend the first day of a crisis searching for network diagrams and vendor contacts, you are not truly ready. A retainer is most powerful when it is paired with the practical capability to engage and guide the support effectively. One subtle but important concept for beginners is that mutual aid and retainers serve different purposes, and understanding the difference helps you design a balanced support strategy. Mutual aid and ISAC participation often provide broad situational awareness, shared threat information, and lessons learned that improve preparedness and triage. Peer support can provide quick advice, comparisons, and validation of decisions, often from people who have lived through similar situations. Retainers provide committed, contracted expertise and hands-on support, often including investigation and recovery assistance that requires dedicated time and specialized skill. During a major incident, you may need all three. You might use peer support to understand whether others are seeing the same activity, use the ISAC to gain threat context and recommended mitigations, and use retainers to execute forensic analysis and recovery planning safely. Beginners should see that these supports reduce the cognitive load on internal teams. When internal teams are less overloaded, they make better safety decisions, they preserve evidence more effectively, and they recover more confidently. The idea is not to outsource responsibility, it is to extend capability. In OT, extending capability is often necessary because internal teams cannot be experts in every vendor and every failure mode. A resilient organization plans for that reality rather than discovering it during a crisis. Another crucial consideration is confidentiality and trust, because information sharing in a crisis can create fear about exposure, reputation, and legal risk. Beginners may wonder whether sharing information is dangerous, and it can be if it is done carelessly. That is why mutual aid and ISAC structures exist. They provide controlled channels and norms for sharing that reduce risk while still enabling learning. Retainer relationships also depend on confidentiality agreements and clear rules about how incident information is handled. For OT incidents, confidentiality matters because technical details can reveal vulnerabilities or operational patterns that adversaries could exploit. At the same time, secrecy can be harmful because it prevents peers from warning each other and repeating the same mistakes. A mature readiness posture balances these concerns by defining what can be shared, through what channels, and under what protections. Beginners should also understand that trust is not only legal, it is practical. You want peers and responders who will not sensationalize your incident or provide reckless advice. Building relationships ahead of time helps ensure that when you share information, it leads to useful assistance rather than unwanted exposure. Planning mutual aid is therefore a deliberate trust-building activity, not a casual networking hobby. Mutual aid planning also connects to operational continuity because peer support can include practical resources beyond advice. In some sectors, mutual aid agreements include sharing specialized equipment, spare parts, or even skilled personnel during large-scale disruptions. Beginners should recognize that OT recovery sometimes depends on physical resources, such as replacement hardware or specialized technicians, and supply chains can be slow during crises. If a major event affects multiple organizations, like a widespread vulnerability or a large outage, the demand for the same resources can spike quickly. Mutual aid can help by providing alternative pathways to those resources. It can also help with situational awareness, because peers can share what they are observing about threats and failures, which can help you decide whether an incident is isolated or part of a broader wave. This broader context influences crisis decisions such as whether to disconnect certain pathways, whether to delay updates, or whether to prepare for sustained disruption. Beginners often treat incident response as a local event, but the reality is that many modern incidents have systemic elements, such as supply chain compromise or shared vendor outages. Mutual aid provides a way to see beyond your own fence line. In OT, that wider view can support safer, less reactive decisions. Planning retainers and mutual aid also forces you to clarify your internal readiness, because external help is only useful if your organization can integrate it effectively. That means you need clear authority to engage help, clear incident roles to coordinate with outsiders, and clear technical and operational information to share. It also means you need to know your own constraints, such as which systems cannot be touched without vendor approval, which segments can be monitored safely, and which actions could create safety hazards. Beginners should understand that external experts will ask for information quickly, such as asset inventories, network topology, and remote access arrangements. If you cannot provide those, the external team will spend time learning basics while the incident continues. A good readiness posture includes pre-built incident information packages that can be shared quickly, along with procedures for updating access lists and ensuring that external sessions are logged. It also includes practicing the engagement process through exercises, because the first time you call a retainer should not be during your worst day. Exercises reveal friction points like unclear contact information, unclear approval steps, and missing documentation. Fixing those friction points before a real incident is one of the most valuable outcomes of readiness planning. When you step back, planning mutual aid and retainers is about creating a surge capacity and an intelligence network that you can rely on when your internal team is stretched. ISAC participation provides sector-relevant context and a structured channel for sharing and learning. Peer support provides human-to-human guidance and validation from people who understand the reality of OT constraints. Retainers provide committed expertise that can be activated quickly with predefined expectations and confidentiality protections. IRR Readiness ensures that these supports are not just theoretical but operational, meaning you can engage them quickly, integrate them into your incident structure, and provide the information needed to act safely. For new learners, the most important takeaway is that resilience is not only about technology, it is about relationships and preparedness. When you plan for help before you need it, you reduce the time lost to uncertainty, you improve decision quality under pressure, and you increase the likelihood that incidents will be contained and recovered with safety and confidence. In OT, where the consequences can extend beyond the organization to the public and the physical world, that readiness is not optional. It is part of responsible operation.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.